Welcome everybody. Today is Tuesday, the 4th of June, 2024, and we are delighted to have Sherry M, who'll be sharing her experience, strength and hope with us. So Sherry came into Overeaters Anonymous in 2004 and is from Wyoming. So Sherry, it's over to you.
Thank you excuse me. Thank you so much, Alan. I'm really grateful to be here. My name is Sherry M, and I am gratefully living in a recovered state today from this seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, this destructive, deadly disease of compulsive overeating. And I have a long history of, I have more time in struggling in the rooms than I do of being where I am today. Thank you so much. Where's Rita? She's not on my screen, but love you so much. Thank you for, oh, there you are, up at the top right. Perfect. Thank you so much for asking me. I love when people ask me to speak, and I always feel like, sometimes I'll go like long periods of nothing, then all of a sudden I literally have like 6 speaking. They're all at once. And that's just the way my higher power works. And I feel like that's whatever's happening in my life, honestly, is like what God needs me to go and share about. That's just how it's been. I have been following, there's nothing more important than the 12-step way of life and my relationship with my higher power. I have been following this way of life since February 3rd of 2004, which is almost my entire 30s, the entire 40s, and now into the 50s. This is an interesting run. I want to say the 50s is an interesting decade. Not my favorite, but okay. That's what it is. What's the alternative? Not being here. So just a little bit of what it was like, just to tell you where I come from, because I do believe it is a miracle. I don't know how someone can come from there and get to here, other than divine intervention and a miraculous higher power and a surrender to a different way of life. So I was born into an alcoholic home and immediately been led to believe, my sister's 7 years older, so I believed that my mom was trying to get out of that marriage because that's what was told to me, and that I was like an oops, now I have to stay. So I was a burden from the time I was born. I come into a family with no physical nurturing, no I love yous, no warmth, just being in the crib, alone. And so I never did feel safe as a kid. And then at around age 7, my parents, and I actually believe that I was born into poverty also. And I come from a military family. And I believe that those first years up until the divorce, I don't remember anything then that was super horrific, except for a medical thing where I tried to iron my hand and had to go into the emergency at age 3, and the whole story doesn't make sense. So I've learned not to go back to alcoholics trying to find out what the story was of my life. That has been just futile for me and not helpful at all. Not helpful. So it is what it is. These are the facts. I just just the facts, man. What happened? Good. Let's move on. How can you have a different life? And my parents divorced when I was 7, and I was asked who I wanted to live with by my sister, and my sister and I got split up, and in 2 different homes, 2 different cities. And this is when it really got I'm going to say ugly for me, because then my dad started being inappropriate with me when I would visit him. And that's when I remember the first time taking a bite, and it was a Reese's cup. And I went into the cupboard and I grabbed it, and then I grabbed another, and I grabbed another, and I grabbed another. And I thought, this is it for me. This food, I mean, it makes me cry, but this food was made for me. And whether I was born this way or not, something got triggered inside of me. I don't need to debate if it's emotional, physical, what it was, but I just know my experience. And my experience is I am now going to be able to live. I am now going to be able to breathe. And the one thing that's going to help me through this life, since there is nobody for me, is going to be this food. And that was a conscious decision. And then my mom married another perpetrator, and then I lived with him for many years of just inappropriateness and neglect, latchkey kid at age 7. So really, when I tell you that my food was my very best friend, that's it. That's it. That food was there for me when I was scared and I was home alone and it got dark out and nobody was there. The food was there to comfort, and the TV. The food and the TV. That was my babysitter. That was my parenting. My mom and I bonded over watching soap operas, and the only way we connected was her taping them 4 hours a day, Channel 7, All My Children, General Hospital, Ryan's Hope, One Life to Live. And we would watch 4 hours of that, and she would bake all this stuff, and she was my binge buddy. And she wouldn't say one word to me. We would not speak about anything other than the soap operas. And I did that. That was a huge 10 years of my childhood was watching soap operas. Okay, then I got into hardcore stuff, to take the edge off. I found drugs and things like that at age 8. My first sip of alcohol was age 8. So for me, it was on at an early age, and it was my life. Food and any substance that's going to numb, comfortably numb. That's one of my favorite Pink Floyd songs, and I sing it every day. I just want to be comfortably numb. And that was it. It's a miracle I survived high school, but I did. And I was actually a very good student, and I was very smart, and I did well. I thrived in school, but yet this other stuff I was doing to check out really took away from it. So the weight started showing up at about age 16, and my mom would hand me laxatives. So I took a lot of Dexatrim. She would bring me to diet doctors to get shots that were kind of like B12, kind of speedy shots, and nothing worked for me. The only thing that worked actually was hardcore drugs, and I did find cocaine and crystal meth. And first it was cross tops, I would do those in high school, and I became a full-blown drug addict. And, for me, it wasn't, a lot of people say, oh, they did these drugs for the euphoric state and they could just, have some fun. It wasn't that at all. This was my only solution to not thinking about food. I often did these substances by myself. I lived by myself pretty much my whole entire life. And I wasn't out at the nightclubs doing these drugs. I was doing them so could turn this off. And I didn't want to have food. The mind was just relentless of telling, it was like all day long, what are you going to have for breakfast? What are you going to have for lunch? When can you go get this? When you could, the time wasted in this disease. And because I had these other substances, this disease wasn't full blown yet. It was waiting for me. I had these other things that sort of it was almost like it was mixed in. So I would get very, very, very drunk. And in the morning, I was so sick from a hangover, that I would stop on the way to work. And because I was late from the hangover, I knew that everyone loved bagels and, foods. I would stop at all these places and get all this food only for me, selfishly, to soak up everything. And then I would say to myself, I'm never going to do this again, while I compulsively overate breakfast, lunch, anything to soak up the poison in my body. And then at about 2, 3 o'clock, I started planning my next bender, and that included the drugs, the alcohol, and then the food again. And so this was my entire life. So much so that there wasn't any room to have kids, to get married, to have a really deep relationship with somebody. Somebody would try to get close to me, and I would just check out with my substances. It was all too overwhelming for me. Life was unbearable living without being numb. So it was me by myself, my rock and roll music, and all my substances. And that was my life. And I thought that I was going to die from overdose at about 30 years old. And I started seeking help. And I finally landed in a rehab facility in Malibu, California. And I showed up there and I said, I'm here for drugs, alcohol, and food. I'm very afraid to give up this because I'm going to eat. They said, don't worry, just come here and deal with the first two. And I did. And I immediately put on a size within 2 days. I got my money's worth. It was like a cruise ship. I emptied my bank account to go there, and I wanted my money's worth. And so they would take us out there was plenty of food. There was an unlimited amount of food. It was only a 6-bed facility and all this gourmet food. And yet I still demanded every day that they take me to the grocery store. There was not going to be enough, and so I have this thing that there's not enough. There's never going to be enough you need to have backup supplies. And they would approach me, week into this facility, Sherry, we're very concerned because you have this other refrigerator full of all this food and binging while you're here. And I said, I told you guys this when I came, and this is it. And they just said, keep, just wait. By the time I exited that 30-day treatment, I think my mom brought me, I can only wear stuff that, like elastic. I couldn't zip anything up that I had owned. My pants I was busting out of. Thank you, I see the tide. And I was miserable, but I was sober. And you know what? I had my first glimpse of what a higher power was, and it was keeping me sober. I couldn't believe that I could be sober. And I really was invested in the steps in a way of a surrender that my sponsor says she hadn't seen. I was just willing to do whatever it took, whatever it took. And I kept telling her, in that first 6 months, I want to die. I want to die. If this is sobriety, I want to die. I kept busting out of another size within a short amount of time, 6 months, 6 sizes bigger, busting out. I could not control this disease. This disease had me in its grips. This disease was just cunning, baffling, and powerful. All I could do was eat all day. I had a woman at work who turns out she was in OA, but one day I could not stop going into her office like every 5 minutes to grab a candy. And she left an OA meeting schedule on my desk. And I was mortified. I was mortified because everyone had seen me. I took a 30-day, I told them I was on medical leave for my wrist, came back, and I was just ballooned. I just kept getting bigger and bigger, and it was just shame, remorse, horror, and I had no control over stopping this at all. I couldn't stop going to 3 different fast food restaurants, and it was, when I tell you it was the worst time of my life, it absolutely was. And luckily I had learned to be honest in AA. And so at one of my women's meetings, I went up to someone and I said, I had suicidal thoughts. And I was in the dressing room trying to bust out of this other size, and I saw myself for the first time. And if this is what sobriety is, I don't want to live, and I don't want to be sober anymore. And she said, call my friend. She's in the CEA HAL program. And that's where my journey began. So about 6 months into sobriety, 2004, summer of 2004, I started my journey with the food, addressing this deadly disease of food, which I found to be more cunning, baffling, and powerful than any other disease I've ever had. This is the one that has completely separated me from God, I believe. And this is the hardest one because I know people say, well, that doesn't make sense, but it does for me because I have both diseases, and having to actually go out and put this substance in my body 3 times a day when I'm completely can abstain from the other and live a very fun, wonderful life. It is at times has been very difficult to do. And so I came into the HELP program. I immediately followed well, I didn't immediately, that would be a lie. No, I immediately saw and heard in the meeting, no sugar, no flour, no alcohol, no nuts, and maybe it was fats. It was something else. And I went, oh, no way. And I ran to the grocery store, went down every aisle with my grocery. It was like a frenzy. It was like I just pulled down things from the shelf that I had wouldn't even have desired before, but I knew I'd never be able to have them one day. And I went home and had that major binge. I mean, I'm talking animal style, just eating with my hand, ice cream with my fingers. I can't get to the kitchen to get a spoon, freezing my fingers, passing out, coming to. It was god awful. If anyone is here and has this disease, then you know what I'm talking about. Not being able to control my bowels because I'm having too many laxatives, not being able to answer the phone, not being able to see anybody, my legs rubbing together, just the whole thing. It was a mess, and I was desperate. And I did come back after that, and then I got a sponsor and I started working the program. And I have to tell you that for me, this long journey that I've been here is all about patience, perseverance, struggle, strength, courage, hope, and possibility. There is so much hope here that it is amazing. If it can happen for me, it can happen for you. If it can happen for you, it can happen for me. And that's why we come to meetings. And so what happened was, after 6 months of being in that program and the weight came off, I thought it was just about the weight. What I've learned is this disease has nothing to do with my weight, with the volume, with the amount of time I ate, or even with the actual substance that I eat. I mean, that could totally separate me. I am, I pride myself on being a healthy eater. So sometimes when I hear people talking about certain things, I'm like, oh, I would never have that. Like at Halloween, I would come home and empty the bag out from trick-or-treating, which I don't know if you guys have that in England or not, but anyways, it's something, okay, you do, okay. So I would empty up that bag and, I told you my mom, I think, has this disease, although she's a periodic, and I would pull out the Reese's and I would pull out the Butterfingers, and literally the whole 80% of that bag I did not like. So I was also this is what kept me separated, honestly, because I was such a picky eater. And because people would talk about specific things, I thought, no, I would never have that. I would never have that. It's not about that. Here's what qualifies me as a real compulsive overeater. Have I ever picked up a substance and lost control and said to myself, don't eat another, don't eat another, and then I eat another? Okay. And then have I ever said, I'm not going to eat this for 30 days and not been able to keep that promise? Have I ever known that I was ingesting something that was absolutely going to kill me, but I did it anyways because I could not stop myself? These are some of the ideas and thoughts that I've learned here that qualify me as having this disease. It is not about if I didn't lose control every time. It's about, did I lose control just once? And then Herb K always says, okay, let's just give yourself another one. Did you lose control twice? That's all I need to know. A normal person doesn't do that. And I was so caught up on the 80% of the time that I couldn't see that I actually was dying in the rooms of Overeaters Anonymous. So I came into the rooms of Overeaters Anonymous. My time is running out, and I would say that that is where my journey here with this relapse, and was I even recovered to begin with? I was not recovered until I found a vision for you, and I got recovered for the first time. I'm going to say November 3rd of 2018. So from 2005 to 2018, I had long bouts of abstinence, refraining from sugar and flour, let's say, or when that became too much, then I would change. I would just keep changing my abstinence. My abstinence is I don't leave the room. I would hear other people sharing, and my abstinence is just no refined sugar. I wanted that to be specific. That's my loophole, so that now I can go have coconut sugar over here, or whatever it was. Okay, I'm just not going to leave. It'll just be 3 meals a day, nothing in between. I just kept changing it, maybe yearly, on what it was. And then I would get these long bouts, and I thought, I'm doing great because my weight is maintained. And I'm doing these steps with a vigor. I mean, I cannot, I'm constantly immersed in the steps. I'm actually in 4 programs. You cannot be more immersed in the steps or the 12 steps by not being in all these programs. I mean, either I'm sponsoring this program or doing the steps over here, but I'm constantly redoing the steps. But yet, nobody ever really helped me figure out. They just didn't know. And I didn't know until I knew either. It wasn't that they weren't trying to help me, they were giving me the information that they had. And I appreciated that because that was part of my journey. And I do think that I'm slower than the rest in terms of one item needed to go, and then another item needed to go, and then another one needed to go. Life was too unbearable. And then I really thought that it was because I had trauma in my childhood. And that also kept me separated, I think. And I did feel different. And why did I feel different? Because there wasn't anybody sharing about my experience. And even today, I don't think I've yet to hear my exact story anywhere. But that kept me separated because I felt like, how can these people really understand? How does my sponsor really know what it feels like to live in this body where I feel scared going outside because someone might look at me, and then I get triggered with this trauma? Or, when I feel so unsafe in the world and so unloved, I came into the rooms feeling so unloved. And it breaks my heart now for that person who came into the rooms, because I couldn't even hug my sponsor for over a year. And I didn't know, like holding hands, I just cringe. I just wasn't that person. And it was only because I didn't have that experience. And then take away my substances. And I was totally like, get away with my substances. I was like, yay, everyone, I love everybody. And then take them away. And now I'm left with the truth of me. And the truth is I'm super scared. I'm I'm like a walking nerve end, so I'm triggered all the time. I have to sit in the back of the room because I have PTSD. I have to see always who's coming in. I mean, this is what I was left with, this level of anxiety that I didn't even know was there without my food. And my food was helping me to, show up in life. And so it took me a long time in here. And I would say at least the first 6 years of my recovery, I was feeling like I didn't want to be here anymore. And that is part of my story. And that's with eating, food for comfort, So what I've learned is that that person that didn't want to be here anymore, that's actually part of the spiritual experience for me, because a part of me does have to die. Like that old self has to die off. And so when I was feeling that grief of like not wanting to be here, it wasn't per se me. It was, it says in the St. Francis prayer, which I love so much, it says, by dying, we awaken to life. And that's, I believe, what was happening for my metamorphosis, was that
Got
dying
10
to
left.
awaken to life. And thank you so much. And what needs to die is the old self. If the old self is still operating in the world, then that I'm going to have to pick up food, because that's my coping mechanism for the old self. But if I can be transformed by number one, what I found out in A Vision for You was that there might be certain behaviors and substances that I'm ingesting, that no matter how many times I do the steps, I can't get the program from here, because this is where it was up until then. I can't get it from here to here. And then really what I want to have it is down to my feet. I want it from my heart to my feet. That's where the grounding is, and that's where my higher power needs to reside. It's deep down within all of us, but it couldn't get past here. It just couldn't. It couldn't go down. And I think that that's the best thing that the Vision for You program sponsor. And I just mentioned them because it saved my life and it's part of my story. It's not a separate program from Overeaters Anonymous. It's a healthy Overeaters Anonymous meeting. I felt like when I joined this meeting today that this was a healthy Overeaters Anonymous meeting. And the reason I say that is because there's 99 participants, but also there were so many people logging on early asking how they could be of service. And to me, that is an absolute indication of a healthy meeting, um, and a strong meeting. And so that's what A Vision for You is. It's very helpful for me to call in, and my brain can only focus in on small amounts of things. So one paragraph at a time is enough for me. Thank you very much to contemplate. And I can remember that. And so I like that meeting, and entirely abstinent was something that I hadn't really been before. And so somebody helped me lovingly point those out, like, oh, okay. Um, I see that you're doing this like fifth or below ingredient, or I see that you're having this. But if this is in your history of a food that you ate, then maybe you might want to take it out. And would you consider doing that until we work the steps? That's what I tell sponsees today. Because I'll know right away. The minute they say, no, I'm not willing, that means that they are actually choosing the food over the spiritual solution. And that's what I did for many years in here, because I didn't know. But once I knew, it took me still a year after I knew. So self-knowledge avails me nothing. I cannot convince anybody to put down the food. And my experience is this journey is so personal. And I don't have to relate to somebody who came in and then they're just free. You hear them, they came in, they found the God, and now they weigh and measure every single blueberry and everything's been wonderful and that's their life. That's not my experience. My experience is many, 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 many years of 2 steps forward. I used to call it 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I am grateful for all of it. And the truth is, I don't count my time today. So when I got recovered, I was free and recovered. And what happened for me, I want to talk about this because I think this is super important. Up until being recovered and having a spiritual awakening and sponsoring many people and being totally plugged in, and God is my number one, and this is just shouting it from the rooftops, there's another way of life, and I never would have found this in AA, because I'm a real compulsive overeater, and nothing keeps me more connected on a minute to minute, hour to hour basis than this program, because I have to ingest my substance. And I loved it so much. And then um, there's an interesting thing. So a lot of sponsors will say, like, go live in 10, 11, and 12 now, and you're recovered. Go pass it on. And for me, I think just for my other programs, and I think it's important to stay accountable. But what happened for me is that I was so spiritually fit. I mean, I really was. And I didn't need the sponsor, and it made the sponsor like obsolete. And then she said, go be in 10, 11, 12. So I just stopped calling her. And then we moved out of state into a rural area with no cell service. So the first 3 months we were here, I had no privacy to even make calls, but still I was connected, totally connected. I'm doing 10s and 11s. I did let my sponsees know ahead of time though, before I had two and they were already recovered. I said, why don't you guys just exchange your 11 steps? So that's right there. I want to just say the start of that little blip I had right there, that thought. Why don't you guys stop calling me and go call each other? No. Okay. I didn't see it because I was still spiritually fit. So this disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful. So now I'm here, and then I'm still doing the Vision for You calls, and I'm still doing a lot of things, but I'm so disconnected from my fellows and others because I can't make calls. And I never could have planned that that would be like one of my problems of moving here, you know. And that did happen. And then socializing a lot. You know, the person that I have become today is unrecognizable. You cannot come from living alone with your blinds shut, binging your brains out, not answering your phone, to they call me the cruise director here. They call me what Sherry will do it. Sherry will plan it. Constantly, we have game night on Friday night. We have this. We have this tournament over here. Calling all. I'm introducing this neighbor to this neighbor. I'm having people over to the house. Constantly entertaining and joyfully. Like that is actually who I am. I had no idea. I'm actually a very social person, and I also like my space, but I had no idea. And so the things that I'm able to do today are beyond recognizable. And so when I started baking actually sugar-free items again, and I found myself, oh, this, I'm having more than one. Uh-oh, call somebody. So that was like the blip I had in my thing. And then from there, it became very perfectionism. So does anyone have perfectionism as a trait? I do. And it's either all or nothing. And so then I started like every time I had a thought about food, oh, I got to start over. I got to start over. And it became this really weird thing. So here's what I know. I live in a recovered state. It's been a while now. I don't know, probably over a year, probably two now. I needed to stop having a date with this program. And I think the reason why is because this program is never stagnant. It's not, this is the food plan that I had 10 years ago and it works today. No, I've also, at that time, I want to also mention I had very horrific COVID that happened and I was sick as a dog throwing up. So my food plan wasn't working for me. I've had a lot of physical challenges since then. And the exact medicine that I'm using 10 years ago may not work today. And that's why for me, what matters most is that every single day I have 24 hours, and I'll wrap up with this. I have a 24-hour reprieve. I opened up the big book, and I always do that randomly to see what pops, and this is what came up. It says, I must think more about others, on page 199. I must think more about others than about myself. The most important thing is to practice these principles in all our affairs. I have found that by abandoning myself to God as I understand God, admitting my faults to Him and to my sponsor and fellows, then I clear away the wreckage of my past. This is also on this page. I give freely of what I have, and then I ask other people to join us. This is not easy to practice these principles in all our affairs, but what I know is this: the very existence, my selfishness, recognizing my selfishness in my desires, motives, action, words, thoughts, and then instantly turning that over and going to God to intervene so that I can live a God free of sharing, free of ego, free of pride, and try to serve others. This is my entire aim every single day. And this is how I know that I am living a recovered state, because no matter what has happened in life, I have a sense of calm and ease and peace about me that cannot be taken away. I have a foundation that's rooted in the 12 steps, is rooted in God. And this is not about food. This is not about weight. This is not about that. The minute my mind goes to that, I realize right then and there that I am completely disconnected from the only source that can save me from this deadly disease. And that is the thing. There's no human power that can help me. There's no amount of meetings that can help me. Going to this is great. I'm getting some self-knowledge here, but that's not going to help me. At the end of the day, it is between me and my higher power. My higher power, and if I believe that truly, then I believe that relapse or going back to the food is always a blessing. Why do I believe that? Because each and every time my higher power has said to me, oh, honey, you didn't come to me in that moment. you went to the food. Come back to me, come back to your source, come back to the only thing that's going to help you with this deadly disease. And that is what this program has given me. These are not thoughts that came from me. I guess they were deep down inside of me all along, but it's about getting rid of all the things that are blocking me from the only things. And for some of us, I think that have relapse, who I relate to people who pick up again. That is me. But I think for some of us, it's just a different path and it takes longer, but it's about love, it's about gentleness, and it's about acceptance while also admitting my truth, right? So we don't want to be so gentle with people that we're helping killing them. We want to be honest, and we want to help people to thrive and to live, and that's what we're doing here. So thank you so much for letting me share. I can't wait to hear from all of you.